This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, I'm calling to order the meeting of the Southampton Select Board for December 10th at 6:01 p.m. If we could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, do we have anyone here for citizen speak for an issue that is not on the agenda tonight? Not seeing anyone. Okay, so we have a little bit different order of events tonight. We're going to start with an executive session, and then after that come back into open meeting. So I'm going to read the reasons for the executive session. We're going to start that at a couple minutes at 6:05, thereabouts.
Do we need to leave?
I'll read this and then you can leave during the executive session, sure. So the executive session will be per MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And this is related to the highway superintendent and the town accountant. So with that, could I have a motion to go into executive session? And we will be returning, obviously, to public meeting. I'm going to guess we might take, probably no more than a half an hour.
Yeah, maybe 20 to 30 minutes.
20 to 30 minutes, I would say we would be back in public session. Okay.
So moved.
All right. Second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Motion's approved. So we will temporarily adjourn from public session and move into executive session, and we will be back on in roughly 20 minutes, I would guess. Okay. Thanks. Southampton Select Board is back into open session at about 6:49. Hopefully our recording will be starting again. Momentito. But let's, here we go. Okay, so we are back in open session at 6:49, and we'll continue with the agenda. Appointments and resignations. Would someone like to
Take them as a package or separately?
Two separate things.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Terry Ann Hogue, Open Space Committee, effective November 20th, 2024.
Okay,
With regrets, second.
all right.
And I'd like to comment that I want to say thank you very much to Terry Ann Hogue. She was part of the Open Space Committee for greater than a year and made some suggestions and some contributions, and thank you, Terry Ann.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, approved.
Make a motion to approve Mark
Cassis.
Cassis, new appointment, Open Space Committee, 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Second.
All right,
As chair of the Open Space Committee, I will tell you, Mark Cassis has been attending meetings, has an extensive background. I hope he'll stand up and say a few words just about his background, and I am wholeheartedly thrilled that he's interested in joining that. Yes? Joining our committee.
Mark Cassis, 19 Fulmer Road. Just briefly, I'm very interested. I've been active in other committees. I've been 8 years on the Winding River Land Conservancy Board. Previously, I put together the grant and the conservation restriction and negotiated with the town for the Wolf Hill property, Janet Brown's CR, monitoring some of the CRs in town. Winding River. I'm now on the Lands Committee for Kestrel Land Trust, so I can also form a bridge there, and very interested in the area.
not to mention the Greenway Committee.
The Greenway Committee, so
Very
Community Preservation Committee, which overlaps.
And you're on CPC.
CPC also, so,
Yep.
and would love to be on the committee, so.
Good, all right, good.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, do we have a motion? We have a motion?
Second, yeah.
And a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so be it. You are approved. And as you know, you just have to get sworn in yet again, probably, for this committee, but you'll be all set. All right.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving forward, Scott, how about town administrator report?
All right, so we had the results of the sewer study last week, and we had a meeting with Ty and Bond. Stephen, you're actually, just before I forget, you're going to have an invitation for Monday for the land use planning, which kind of coincides with the sewer study. But a couple of the takeaways are, according to Ty and Bond, it's feasible from an engineering standpoint to get the sewer down the greenway to the designated village, which is around the 117 to 125 College Highway area and kind of extends all the way into the North School area. We do need further technical assistance to move forward on this. So this was just a feasibility study. There's still a lot of work that would need to be done by the engineers, from locating pump houses to, how much would a grinder be for each house to, where would they, I forget the terminology, but where would be able to locate different treatment stations. There's also would need to be a very large public outreach and citizen feedback, which we'd have to, again, have the technical assistance for. Something that right now we wouldn't be able to internally do, but just to see if people would be interested or not in having a town sewer, especially in that village area. It is going to be an investment of, upwards of $20+ million, which is a big number. And there's a couple different ways that the town could look at funding it. Obviously, the first one would be have third-party federal government, state government funds coming in to defray that as much as possible. The other one would be, do we look at it as a townwide initiative, or do we look at it as a third option where people that would be tying into the sewer would pay for it, or a combination of all three? So that's what we're kind of looking at. Financially, that's the most difficult part for the feasibility. So the other part of that is, how would the future operation and maintenance be? I mean, I think the Ty and Bond estimated is going to be about $30,000+ a year to maintain the infrastructure and all the different things. And then there's also the legal areas we still need to work on. Easthampton has been very positive, but that's up until a certain point where we actually signed the intermunicipal agreement, and they're on the hook for it as well. So even though it's been positive, there is a lot of legal work in different areas that would need to be worked out. So that would be one of the next steps. So really the next step is looking at, potential funding. How does the sewer interact with the land use planning at the new College Highway land? What are the legal obstacles? And also, obviously how we're going to pay for it, but then also the public outreach and the technical assistance. So those are really the 5 things that we need to look at moving forward. I thank you. Thank you very much for your leadership on this. I think the other piece is the return on such an investment is looking at problems that would be ameliorated, opportunities generated, so that it's not just a unilateral cost. Some of the return on investment may be difficult to exactly quantify, but I think we need to keep that in mind, that we're trying to solve problems and create opportunity, not just spend money on infrastructure. Thank you.
We did have our first weather event of the year, and hopefully it'll be the last, but it doesn't look like it'll be for this week. As long as there's no accumulation of snow, I think we're good to go. But yeah, we do have a new provider for the sidewalks, so Randall's been reaching out to the different town departments, making sure they did their job correctly, and so far the feedback's been positive. Preliminary budgets are due December 19th. I know the Cemetery Commission was working on theirs today. Library's already got theirs in, and then this Thursday we're having a department head meeting, and I'm going to be going over all that and make sure everyone gets it in on time. So I've been reminding people, it's just a preliminary budget, so they're not going to be 100% perfect. There's going to be a lot of different areas that we're going to be changing and switching, but we need to have a starting point. And then from December into January, I'm going to work with the individual departments to refine their budget a little bit. There's a lot of things that we're going to be looking at to maybe consolidate, for example, facilities maintenance,
Currently we budget our custodian for hours at the library, then we budget for hours at the police station, then we budget for hours at town hall. Maybe we can look at having one line item for maintenance and having, one line item for the custodian's salary, and if he needs to spend more time at town hall because of an election, and less time at the library, or more time at the police station because of an incident, then it gives a little bit more flexibility, and it doesn't necessarily impact the budgets of the library as much. So it's really providing a service to our different town departments from one area. The compensation study is complete, which I'm going to be asking the select board to adopt later for the first phase later tonight. And then the hazard mitigation plan committee is going to meet, actually met today. We had the Eversource representatives in just to talk about their levels of service and how they do vegetation trimming and a few other things. And I am drafting the letter to Eversource as well. That was requested last meeting to get them in to talk about some of the other issues. And then we have HKT Architects are meeting with the police chiefs this Thursday as well. So we're hoping for them to expedite the process so that we can have a special town meeting to request OPM and architectural funds for the public safety complex. But we can't do that until we have a better sense of how much a reduced footprint will be.
Okay, good. Anybody have any questions, comments? All right. If not, we'll move on briefly to select board report outs. John, start, you're in? School committee stuff?
No, we're meeting tomorrow night for the school board. We've started through the budget process. There'll be a joint public meeting next week, I think on the 17th, where the superintendent and the business administrator will host an online Zoom meeting where the links will be able to be shared afterwards because it'll be recorded.
It's a Zoom meeting, not in person?
I think they're going to do both.
Oh, okay.
But the intent is, instead of having 10 meetings around the budget, we're going to go down to 6, where the first meeting is informational only, so to present to all the finance committees and select boards and town administrators at once.
Yep.
So everyone's getting the same information. Historically, the superintendents had to go on the road show, and it takes 4 weeks to visit all the towns
Yeah.
to give them the information. So by the time you get to the end, it's already changed to try and streamline.
Yeah.
So moving forward with that, the forensic analysis at the school department is continuing to work forward, and assuming that we can do some reclassifications in that, it all looks favorable to Norris at this point, that funds that were charged off to the general fund really should have been off the grants, and some of those grants are still open, so it's a matter of reallocating and then drawing those down to replenish the general fund. So in theory, there should be a one-time boost to free cash coming up to recognize all those. PPB is meeting next Thursday. Capital Committee hasn't met, and I forget what my other one is.
School?
No, school's meeting tomorrow night. So that's it.
Good, thanks. Steve?
Planning Board is meeting next Wednesday night, and we've been looking at a number of solar permits, individual residential installations that nonetheless, because they're ground-mounted, have their own process. And we may be looking to create a more clear process and maybe a little less onerous for ordinary residential scale ground-mounted. But I guess the chair and shared with the chair of the planning board communication from Eversource or the facility siting board that a large-scale battery storage is contemplated for neighboring community of Westfield. And I trust that the chair will be bringing a draft letter before the board so the entire board can support that letter of concern. This would have some potential impact on the Barnes Aquifer, which we all rely on for drinking water.
Right. Yeah, there was a public hearing apparently that happened in Westfield that we were not, at least we didn't get the notification. I didn't see it at Select Board, and I don't believe Planning Board got it either. So we just want to be informed of that, and I know the Planning Board Chair is having the Planning Board consultant take a look at all the issues that were presented and sort of help outline other questions and issues that we might have from our side and put something together. The responses are due on the 20th, and I think that will be before our next meeting. So we'll have to just circulate something on that.
Before the next select board meeting, but I
Right.
trust and implore the chair of the planning board to bring it before the entire board and not act unilaterally.
Well, I think as soon as the consultant finishes his work, I think that will happen.
If
I think
so.
it's fine. I think it's fine. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, the one committee to report on is the technology committee. This Friday I'll
Move
meet.
your mic up a little bit, sorry.
Apologies. I'll meet with Scott to talk about the how we'll move forward with the broadband. So look forward to spending time with you on that, Scott. And another topic we had during that meeting, which I'm sure Scott will be addressing, is the cyclings for replacing of our laptops and desktop computers and making sure that we have the ability to get those upgraded. Those are things mentioned. Thank you.
So I'm, you got more?
You got a meeting coming up?
Yeah, we have a meeting come out for COMCOM.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, Cindy.
Board of Health met last evening. They've been, had individuals who are property owners come before them to talk about concerns regarding the building of tight tanks, the concerns regarding sewer, et cetera. So the health agent has been really quite busy making site visits, making recommendations, in some cases putting orders in place to protect the environment. Very complicated set of circumstances. They're also very concerned about their budget and the completion of the budget, and they're trying to collect all the data they can regarding the use of the health agent and what can be collected on and what perhaps they cannot collect on for the services provided by the health agent. So that's complicated. I will say I did speak with the chair, and she's desperately trying to think of ways to provide the right information and also make the presentation for what is needed. We chatted about different ways she might approach that. The Board of Assessors really is just kind of clipping along, doing their usual review of Chapter 61 applications, looking at exemptions, and really tightening up a whole lot of, I've made the same report in the past. They're just working really hard at making sure that things are being caught, and we're waiting to hear from the individual who's going to do a little more research regarding the Hoyok Water Works titles and policies and agreements, et cetera, that have been in place. We don't have a report on that yet. Finally, Open Space Committee has turned out to be kind of an active period of time. I've been receiving phone calls. I got an email today from somebody that is interested in offering the towns the first right of refusal on property that may be of interest to the town and is currently in Chapter 61. And also a couple of other properties where we expressed interest in possibly conserving these properties in the past, and at the time the property owners weren't quite ready to talk or hear, and now they are. So those things we're still keeping in mind, the open space and recreation plan, and it is a very busy committee. So that's kind of it. Right now.
Okay. All right, and for myself, just announcing out meetings that are coming up. Got Senior Center Building Committee on the 12th at 12:30. That's an in-person meeting here at Town Hall. The Public Safety Building Committee will be in person on the 16th at 4:30 here at Town Hall. Master Plan Implementation Committee will be having its quarterly meeting on December 12th at 7 p.m. And the main thing that's happening is that the Grant Committee is working with Chief Fasoli on the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. This is again trying to put in the application for the tanker tender pump truck, and also the SCBA breathing units. There'll be two separate applications. Not sure the total amount yet. We're getting new quotes, but these are due in early this year. They're due in December 20th. So I'm going to be locked down trying to focus on these and getting all the facts and figures right and trying to improve our narrative. I think we've got a little bit of feedback from another chief in Easthampton that told us the kind of things that the computer scan looks for, because we got bumped out after the computer review, never even made it to an in-person peer review. So hopefully we can do better this time, but there's a lot of facts and figures that go into these federal grants. So we'll be focusing head steam on that all week, basically. And my goal is to get it in by Monday next week, 4 days ahead of the deadline, if all goes well. Because there's always computer problems at the very end, and the site crashes, and everything else happens. So that's kind of it. All right, so that's...
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Unless Dan, who serves on the Housing Authority will meet on Monday at 6 p.m. They're down one or more members. Certainly would be great to have increased, well, okay, maybe they're not down members. I'm not meaning to give an official report. What I'm excited to report is that they continue to have guest speakers from affordable housing developers. And we've looked online at several of their projects. And I believe Sierra is working on scheduling site visits so that the Housing Authority and perhaps the public can see examples of affordable housing that's been built by our local developers, our local nonprofit affordable housing developers, that we might consider it for Southampton in a more tangible way. Not entirely out of our own imagination, but in dialogue with what is currently being built.
Very good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You reminded me that we put a post up on our town website about looking for volunteers for the Conservation Commission. So,
Conservation
Commission is the one that's needing volunteers, right? And I will say one more thing. I did have, and I'll put a call out again, I did have a very good meeting, Scott and I, this past week with two people that are interested, two candidates possibly for the Affordable Housing Trust, which, as you know, we actually passed the bylaw. We got the Housing Trust put up at town meeting, and it's been kind of on the books for a year now, but it's been very hard to find people that are willing to volunteer, particularly looking for people with good finance background, real estate, those kinds of things, social work as well, but especially some solid finance background. And so we had a very good meeting with two people, and there's apparently a third one in the wings that might like to talk to us, but we're going to wait off until January to have another meeting. But we're hoping that we'll be able to stand up the Housing Trust somewhere within the next few months and really get that going, and that'll help out the whole process as well. Okay, let's keep on moving on. Thank you, folks, for being patient tonight. We have our first agenda item under new business is the Greenway updates regarding especially the equestrian path. And I think we had a little bit of information about that before, but come on up and fill us in and tell us where things are with that and what you'd like us to do about it tonight.
Hi, everyone. Aaron Tauscher, 8 Palmer Meadow Extension, Chair of the Greenway Committee. So brief remarks on equestrian use specifically. So over the years, we have had equestrian use as a topic for the design on the current space between Coleman Road and Sheldon's for the design work of the project. I believe this came about from the previous owners of the farm, King Oak Farm, but over the years with developing work with Ty and Bond, as well as moving in of the new owners at Grindstone Mountain, we've really found more reasons to not accommodate additional equestrian use in this space, primarily for safety, additional permitting work, additional environmental impact. There's lots of reasons not to do it. We've also reached out to Grindstone specifically for their feedback. They do not have interest in pursuing additional accommodations. So specifically for us doing our due diligence, we wanted to present to you that we will abandon research for additional accommodations, specifically for horse use, parallel to the paved recreation path.
Okay. And this sounds like a wise idea, I might say. I remember reading the original report, and it sounded nice on paper, but then in reality, you think about it with people and bikes and everything walking by and a parallel horse path, just spooking the horses, and unless you made it farther away, which is going to increase your, the amount of property you need, and then some sort of a barrier perhaps between the two trails to make that not as visible or as a little bit more soundproof to the extent it could be. This sounds like an equestrian path was a nice thought, but practicality would not seem to make any sense. So I would tend to share your opinion on that. But anybody else want to make a comment or two? I'd like to actually have a formal vote from Select Board so that we know that this is where we stand as well, and that allows the Greenway Committee to...
There, on recommendation of the Greenway Committee, I recommend that we formally terminate consideration of equestrian use as a preferred use or an allowed use on the Greenway.
Second. Sorry.
Cindy, second? All right. Any further discussion, questions, anybody? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I think you've got the green light from us, so I think we'll drop off the equestrian path and
Perfect.
let you keep on moving with the Greenway Committee and design, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Sorry for waiting so long. All right, so, and then I think we will, I know you had talked at one point about us getting involved with the next phase, the Beyond Sheldon's phase toward Westfield. And I know there's interest in that from Westfield and the state, and I think we'll try to find some time, probably maybe January-ish, to start some of those discussions and see what needs to be done. That's going to be a whole different kind of process that we've got to go through. I know. Yeah, Mark, you want to say something? Sure, yeah.
I think there may be 3 areas that select board input may be important. One is how to proceed with phase 2 south of Sheldon's, both the politics and the specifics and the timing of that. The second is parking near Sheldon's, whether at least to try to do due diligence to try to find something there, since that was one of the first requests, is that for the Sheldons did not want people in their parking lot. And that can come up later, but we've been trying to do a little background on that. And the third, maybe the Grindstone Mountain Farm is using a piece about a quarter mile of the current rail bed, not the bed, but next to the rail bed, to access a part of their land which is under APR, which is not, that's a new use and not what we'd probably want. And it's an issue. They need to cross a stream bed they don't have access to, but it's, the town's going to need to figure out how to interact with that. And okay.
Good to know. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, okay, very good. And I think under the current grant, though, you're looking at some possibilities of parking down at Sheldon's. I thought we had allocated some money in the budget for that.
Because it went to APR, so
Right.
that was not funded,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
Oh.
And it's more that there's one family who owns the land nearby, and not sure if they're
Okay.
willing to, but at least to do due diligence to approach them.
All right, sure. Okay, we can talk about that more. Good, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Thanks for the updates. Okay. Next up, Scott, we've got a couple of ARPA applications.
So just a note, just working with the town accountant just to confirm everything for the most recent amount that we have for ARPA money. So there is $35,000 that Bradley does feel confident that we have in there after numerous spreadsheets and reworking everything. And then we have an additional $58,681 that we received back to ARPA money from a grant that we had applied for, and that money would come back from the state. So we essentially put forward the money first from ARPA, and then it came back to us, so
That
we
was the
just received that.
Clean Water Trust money that's currently being used for the culvert study at the Highway Department.
There's a few other areas of potential ARPA money, salaries with the school department, as well as an additional grant that we fronted the money and are expecting to get reimbursed for. But there's some questions about whether that goes into ARPA or perhaps general fund. So it's really a whole new thing for ARPA at this point, winding it down. No one's ever done it. So we're expecting a lot of guidance from the federal government, and we definitely want to be careful not to overextend what our budget is for ARPA and then having to pay back. So we're kind of walking a fine line right now.
I mean, I think we know our total amount that we got from ARPA, the 1,000,008 something or other. And so I think what we've done is, as we've seen the 35 that Bradley's talking about is related to projects that have actually finished but didn't need all of their money. So that's money that is kind of recycled, if you will, back into the pot to be reprogrammed. And that's where this 58,000 came back in, that we had to upfront the grant money. Now that's been reimbursed to us by the state. So theoretically, we ought to be able to spend it again before we have to stop spending. But you want to still double check that. But I mean, we can do a couple things parallel, because we won't be meeting again on this, and we need to make all these decisions on spending any more, obligating any more money by December 30th. So we do have one more meeting before this to do that, but
And we
before
do
the
it
deadline.
to the definition of obligate, that's, the federal government had released a little bit more guidance on that, so we definitely need like a purchase order or a contract,
Okay.
or something. We don't need to actually spend the money, but we need to make sure that we have, legally binding method to spend it, so.
Okay.
So that 35,000 that Bradley identified, that is, I remember the last time that we brought this up, I thought it was like 32 sitting over there in the bottom column of that spreadsheet. I thought we used it as a place marker to do something else.
We used 31,000 we approved for the railway study, the sewer study.
So this is already taken into account that.
Yeah.
So it was 66 or so.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. There still is some. And then, yeah, and so I will come back to the school in a minute, I think. Let's go through these, but I want to sort of be clear on terms of what I think is happening with the school as well. But go ahead, Scott, on what you would like to present.
So the first application is for Permit Link software. One of the deficiencies that we have in town is communication between departments, especially in like the land use planning. Everyone does a good job, given the resources that they have, in cooperating and giving information. Unfortunately, that we're kind of limited in that scope. There's only so much passing a piece of paper around to be signed can do to all the different departments. And we have so many different stakeholders when it comes to land use planning. Everything, you know, obviously the building department, the health department for septic, we have the highway for curb cuts, historical commission for scenic roads and you know, tree and rock walls. We have the tree warden, we have the planning department, we have the assessors that need to be up to date on everything. We also have the town clerk and then the town treasurer, where nothing should be issued if there's taxes or outstanding money that's owed.
And Concom.
And Concom, yeah, exactly. Historical commission, Greenway. So there's just all these different things, and we also rely on a lot of volunteers. So our planning department, our planning board is all volunteers. Our conservation, we have an agent, although part-time. You know, they do a lot of work planning and health, and so we need a system that can bring everything together, not only to make sure that things are approved and everyone knows about it, but also storage for our documents so that we no longer have physical paper, but making things that are easier to access everything. And then also to make it easier for the public to apply for a permit, so they don't have to come down to town hall or under certain hours to apply for a burn permit at the fire department, which is actually one I forgot to mention. The fire department, making sure that their sprinkler systems and smoke detectors are inspected. So the idea is to use software to kind of fix some of our communication problems and customer service issues and storage issues. It definitely won't fix it just by having the software, but we have to invest our time and our money in actually using it the appropriate way. One of the systems that, one of the goals I'd like to get to is, if you look like, for example, the town of Amherst, they have, although they use a different software than I'm proposing, it's on the same basic thing. So they have one landing page for all the different inspections. So whether it's fire inspections or rental registration or license commissions, building permits, if you need to reserve town property, planning department has everything, their health, you have all the, from body art technicians, backhoe sales licenses, 19 plus. So everything's all there, and everything's electronic and virtual, so that they can so the public can access it, but then also all the towns can share the information. What we have currently is Permit Link through the building department, and just the building department right now. It costs about $4,000 to have this, and our building department is online, although I think it could be utilized a little bit more. We have to get our inspectors on board and a few other things and kind of push the public into using this. One community, just to give you an example, like for example, East Haven, Connecticut, if I wanted to apply for a permit for the fire department, bear with me, let me just log in. After you set up a account, fire department, oops, select. I'm not going to actually apply for this person, but you have to select a parcel that you're going to be doing it for. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah. Select. And then next. And then what it does is all the different permits. If you need a carnival request, it charges, you have the permit fee up here, the $10. you could do a carnival ride, and then, and you essentially would be able to fill out the form online, take payment, and it would process it to their, whoever inspects their carnival in Connecticut, I have no idea what. But essentially, we would also set it up so that if someone did request for a carnival, we would make sure the building inspector would get it, and they would start the process, but then they couldn't proceed without the health department signing off on it, or the planning board to make sure that the carnival is in a properly zoned area. So it communicates automatically and sends out all the information to all the relevant departments. So realistically, if we're going to use it for like a building permit, right now we use a piece of paper that goes to the different departments to make sure that everyone's signed off on. So it goes to highway for curb cuts and planning department before Ron issues the certificate. Here, we can actually expand this so that, we had problems with historic roads. So we can make sure that the historical commission knows that, there's an address at 123 Main Street that is looking to build something. And if it's outside of what the historical streets are, then they don't have to worry about it. They just click approve. But if it is within a historical district, or if they have concerns, then they wouldn't hit approve, and they would make sure that they're communicating with the building inspector before they issue it. So it kind of slows down the process a little bit, but it also makes all the stakeholders aware of everything.
So right now, with our current building permit, people online, I would just put it online and I'm going to get my permit. But what you're saying on the receiving end here, our building inspector still prints out a piece of paper and then it walks around to everybody.
Yes.
To eventually sign off on.
Yep.
Before he really issues the permit. So
That's right.
It's quasi-electric, but.
But on the other hand, there's been, what I'm hearing in this proposal is that you can't move forward until
Everybody signs off.
and it's an electronic decision-making thing in terms of, because I know we ran into a problem with an Airbnb application that it was appeared that people had signed off on it, but they hadn't, and it was concerning.
And the great thing is, like, if you're going to install a new pool, so the building inspector could approve that, but it would alert the assessors to make sure that they properly update everything. And then the health department to make sure that there's a fence around it.
Lovely.
And then maybe conservation to make sure it's not within wetlands or something like that, or environmentally protected. So that's the idea. But it also makes it easier for the public to access this, and depending on what form, it's just like filling it out. It's free to use. You just log into it, and depending on what the form is, it would look home daycare inspection, things like that, and you submit. I don't want to trigger it for these people.
These people can be
on Aaron Road, but that's essentially how it would work. The other good thing about it is it stores everything by the parcel. So address or parcel number. So if there's a septic plan that is submitted, it stores it into there, and then all the users would have access to it. So they could see the plans for the sprinkler system, they could see the septic plans, they could see the certificate of occupancy, they can see the curb cut from the highway department, so they can just look at it instead of going all these different things, they can see everything all at once.
So your program that you're recommending integrates with our existing software that we just upgraded?
Not with Vadar. Vadar is a separate software, but we currently use PermitLink for
Just the building department.
the building, yeah. If we were going to do like a wholly integrated system, we'd have to upgrade to like a Munis system, which has permitting software in it.
So this is exactly what I wanted to explore. Thank you. You explained at the lead that we currently pay $4,000 a year for a software license that allows the public to initiate a process which thereafter is a paper process and does not generate a public record that can be viewed by a concerned citizen, nor any data storage that would benefit any other department.
Right. Or any
Both in the initial
cross-checking of comments or
in the
problems.
initial and in the historic. I suggest that this is making use of something that we already have paid for. Do you need additional funding for additional seats that multiple people can use?
So the 4,000 would stay and we build upon it, is that?
Yeah, so the two things I want to just address is how it would actually impact all the different departments and how we actually pay for it after ARPA.
There we go.
So the first thing, we do have to pay a setup fee to get all the forms in. Thankfully, with PermitLink, they have hundreds of different municipalities, so we're not reinventing the wheel. If we do need a custom form for something specific, they can do it, but it's a little bit of an additional cost. And they have a list of things that it could initially include, from the fire department, health department, clerks with dog licenses, conservation, highway. So these would be the things that are public facing, so the things that the public would actually see. But in the back end, they would allow additional users, so it could be like the planning commission would have a user ability to log in and access this. Same thing with assessors. They may not have a form, but they would still have access to it. So it's kind of like the iceberg. So this is just the tip of the iceberg for that part. So given that the setup fees would be, excuse me. So it is about a $31,000 investment to get everything set up. And, we don't need to do everything all at once, but, for example, the clerk's office is $7,000, and then conservation is $7,000. How we pay for it afterwards is there's a couple different ways. Obviously, the first way is that we just absorb it into our regular annual fees. Now, the annual fee after we get it set up would be around $13,000, and that's including the building department, so it's really an additional cost of around $9,000. There's a couple different ways we could just absorb the cost. We can adjust our fees accordingly so that depending on the amount of permits that we normally issue in a year would help offset the majority of the costs. And then the third option is with PermitLink, they actually could do it per use. So they would actually charge a fee to the permit user and then recoup the money like that. So that's kind of a further conversation how we would do it, and we'd have to bring in the PermitLink representatives to actually talk about that part.
How's the building commissioner currently using it? Are they collecting I'm assuming the only reason we put this in place was to collect the fees online. Mm-hmm. So are we passing on the cost currently?
No.
Right.
No, we are, our rates are just our rates, so there's no built-in. I imagine, given the amount of activity, we are at a positive with the amount of fees that we charge. But no, we don't have this specific into it, and that's something I want to talk to during budget season too.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see a schedule for the planning board. Are they included in setup? There are perhaps more forms needed than we currently have. I didn't notice the department there.
When I talked to the representative of planning, they don't have as many, so I think it's something that they might just throw in or include. Planning doesn't have as many as like the fire department.
What about liquor licenses? Since we're spending a half a meeting on them today.
That I wouldn't recommend just because we only have a certain amount of, we have very few, so the setup fees would not really make it, worthwhile, yeah.
What about rental of the park pavilion and so forth, for use of the park?
That's what I would like to get to, electronic for that. It's where we can take the form and pay for it.
And the sports fields.
That too.
And what about taking land out of Chapter 61? We've talked about there should be some sign-offs of departments on that. It's not really a permit, it's a notification process.
Yeah, there is that first refusal, that it circulates to the 4 different boards, right?
Mm-hmm. We can incorporate that, but for this setup, it's just for the permit applications.
Yeah.
So that'll be like the starting point to control everything, and then as we can kind of add on to it, we can add on to like the pavilion rentals, things like that.
So we can pick and choose out of all of these which permits we actually need, right?
Well, these would all be included.
It's the package for the fire department. The package for the health department. So by department, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like the clerks there, can you scroll down a little bit? I just want to see town clerk.
Scroll down to town clerk.
Right there. So dog licenses, which are what, $7 or $15? A DBA application, I think that's $100, but other potential, it's like, but we got to get $2,500 annually. And I notice birth certificates aren't there, but a dog license is, I don't know, I don't think it's more than $20. So you're talking about, we'd have to have over,
Well, plus business application, I don't know if the business, doing business.
Those are DBAs though, only if you're not registered with Secretary of State. So my guess is, part of the due diligence would be how many DBAs do we currently have? And I'm just, as an example, because although in Holyoke, a DBA is $100. I don't know, but that's a city. I don't know if it's different in a town, but even if it's 100, but a dog license is only $15 or $20. So I'm just thinking the number of dogs, and we know how many dogs we have. We know how many licensed dogs we have in town, right? So all of a sudden, are we making, in this particular example, are we making this $15 application to cover the cost is now going to become a $50 item?
What about marriage licenses, copies of things?
Yeah, that would all be part of town clerk as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we definitely don't need to do the clerks. I mean, I think the core is more on the land use.
Well,
planning.
and I don't want to pick on the clerk. I'm just, it's a spot where I happen to know some of the rates,
Yeah.
but,
And it may not be efficient for a town our size to do that. It may be better just to keep it the way it is. And then you also have the convenience to the customer as well,
Yeah.
to be able to do it online. So we have to kind of,
and I would just say, I love the idea and going there. I don't think I know I don't love the $31,000 price tag,
Yeah.
but if it's a one time, it's a one time. But I guess and I'm happy to stay on this subject as long as everybody wants, but I guess I'm wondering what are the other asks of the existing ARPA money, if any, that are before us tonight?
There's two others, yeah.
so the second ask is for some ADA compliance. I got a request from specifically the Council on Aging to look at moving forward some opening of self-operating doors, which we don't currently have. This would just be to see if they work. Now, I'm familiar with this before. In my previous employment, we were not in compliance with the ADA, and we were forced to comply with like counter height and door, automatic door opening. The problem was, within a year, we were completely renovating the town hall. So we didn't want to spend $10,000 to $15,000 per door to rewire everything just for a year. So we actually bought similar products like this, and they work pretty well for the use, better than I actually thought they would. But what the money would do is we would get 4 of them just to kind of try out and see if they work, especially in the higher traffic areas, the bathroom doors for the Council on Aging and the bathroom doors over here. They are self-installed, so Dave, our custodian, would be able to install them.
Including because there's got to be power.
And that's a great thing, so it's not connected to the power supply. The module on the door has a battery in it, and every time you normally open the door, it recharges the battery.
So if using our existing labor, you're really saying it's $3,000 a door?
Yep.
There's no extra cost? No permits need to be pulled? No overtime?
And then the door openers are Wi-Fi to the module, so if you press it, you just mount them to the side, and you press it, and then it would open it.
And our existing upgrades to the Wi-Fi infrastructure within Town Hall, they're going to work?
Well, this would just communicate directly with the module, so the button just communicates with the door opener, kind of like your remote control for your garage.
And so it would be on the 3 bathrooms and then the door from the senior center into this hallway here. So.
And it would just be able to see if they work.
Yeah.
How we like it. It could be that we get a lot of complaints that maybe they're too slow, maybe they don't open enough.
So you might only buy 1 to start with or something like that? Or?
Yeah, I think the 4, 3 to 4, 1 to 4, depending what the select board.
Well, are you leaning towards 4 based on your earlier conversation that orders have to be placed before December 31st?
Yeah, I mean, that would be.
Yeah,
we don't have enough time to get 1, install it, see if it works, to then get the next 3?
Right.
But I suppose we could buy 4, install 1. If it doesn't work, we could return the other 3 and get money back for free cash. I'd support the purchase of 4.
Yeah, I think those are the 4 that we really need.
Crazy like a fox.
Yeah, okay.
Make that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, and then we got 1 more. I'm going to, you want, there's 3 ARPA. And the third ARPA is one that I put in.
Let's throw a party.
Are you recusing yourself?
Pretty much. Am I recusing myself? Well, I could, yeah. No. Basically, from the 250th anniversary group, as you know, we're trying to get a few events planned. We had a very sort of a prelude to possible town spirit and events with the tree lighting the other night. We had a great turnout the other night. But starting with I don't want to give it away exactly, but New Year's Day is going to be the kickoff for everything, starting with the 250th anniversary. We're looking to have a sort of a major event, I would say, pretty much every month with some smaller events. So presentations, lectures, whatever it may be, during the week perhaps. So we're working on a calendar, and we'll be meeting again on Monday to sort of finalize that. But we would like to put forth a request to have some money. We don't know how much we need. We're trying to get as much volunteer activity as possible, but I think that we're looking at trying to hire a band at some point in time for one big expense, and that's, probably going to be more than we think. We may need to rent out some facilities, but a lot of it would be upfront publicity, some banners, something, flyers advertising the fact that it's our 250th, et cetera, et cetera. So I've just put in a flat amount for $5,000, and I'm willing to take anything, but I guess my question is, I'm not sure how we can obligate it, Scott. That's where I really don't know. I have nothing to put it against right now.
Right. I mean, we could sign an agreement and then put it into a separate account, just like we do with some of the other public event accounts that we have for like flowers or.
Oh. Put it into a gift account?
Yeah.
That wasn't me. That wasn't.
What was that? What was that question down there?
It wasn't a question.
I mean, I just don't know what. Yeah, I mean, if to the extent we can put it somewhere, it can be counted as reserve. That's one thing, because we still don't have to spend all of these things until we've got 2 years to spend it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an MGL that allows us to establish a 250th anniversary fund.
Yeah, we can check it
So
out.
you could allocate the funds into that reserve account.
We can check it. So there's 3. So 5,000, 12,000, and what, 40 or 31,000 plus?
44.
44
Oh,
years.
okay.
So I'll do that. Okay.
First year of annual and then 31 setup.
Right. So you want to take each one individually? I'm willing to do whatever anybody would like. Want to take the very first one, the permitting software one? That was 31,000 setup and then 13,000 for the first year. Is that right?
31 plus 17?
31 plus
13.
13. 13 would be the annual cost. So that's 44. You've put fourth, I think, is it?
Can I ask a question about the current permit software that's only being utilized by the Office of the Building Inspector? Are we sure that it's being used to the max and that it's, I'm a little concerned. I'm like John, I guess, that I don't want to spend a lot of money that we're not too sure about. I think it's a great idea, but I am hearing that even just getting people used to Vadar is turning into a learning curve for people, and I wonder if it's a little too soon for the permitting software, this really lovely permitting software that clearly has a purpose, but are we ready for it in Town Hall? I hope I'm being clear on my point.
I did have a meeting with a lot of the stakeholders, planning, building, conservation commission, treasurers, to kind of go through and introduce into it, and all the key stakeholders are on board.
They really like it, okay.
Does it include any training?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we'd have to allocate some training for it,
That's
for
good
sure.
to know.
And it's a lot simpler than Vadar.
Yeah, I'm certain of that. yeah.
I'd be supportive of this only if the planning module is built out fully. And in particular, that it allows us to share with the public information that should be public-facing. The more sophisticated applications where we're doing a public hearing, we are not providing a transparent process. And I provide my qualified support for your proposal.
So this would be basically permitting software. It has nothing to do with like abatements or all of those kinds of things that would be at the assessor's level, right?
Right.
It's not those kind of forms.
Yep.
It's a permit for something, yeah. Okay, could anybody like to make a motion, or where are we at?
I think I'm ready to make a motion that we support the proposal to purchase this and utilize this, and I say that, yeah, that's my motion.
Okay, so this is the permit-linked software.
Yes.
That's expanding the use of it to all the relevant departments.
I'd like to add an amendment, if that motion is going, and that would be that the software be implemented so as to provide public-facing information for anything requiring a public hearing.
Okay, second? All right. Any further comment, discussion? All right, all those in favor?
I'm voting yes for the amended motion.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we had a second by Dan, sorry, yeah, okay.
On the amendment?
On the amendment, yes. Dan, that was,
Yeah.
yes, it was, yes. Okay, so we have two ayes, Stephen?
Aye.
No.
Aye, aye?
Aye.
No.
No, okay. I'm going to vote aye, so, motion 4-1.
Just for your, this is just from the East Haven, Connecticut, so this is just a quick, so this is all public information, so if you log in, all this stuff, I just picked a random parcel. So this is what you could do. You could actually see it and then have the planning stuff here. And it's all public. You just need to know the parcel and to download it.
Thank you.
So it is.
So you probably need to get out of that so you don't trigger something to those poor people in East Haven, Connecticut.
No, this is public information, so.
They just bought $20,000 worth of solar panels.
There we go.
Who said we wanted a carnival, honey?
Yeah, really.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the use up to $12,500 of ARPA funds to fund 4 units for ADA compliance within Town Hall.
Second.
Okay.
That should provide enough for shipping.
So 12,500, you say?
Yep.
Okay. Any further question, discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the release of $5,000 from the ARPA funds upon confirmation by the town administrator that he has discovered a legal and appropriate manner in which to reserve those funds
Okay.
For the use for 250th.
for the 250th anniversary of the great town of Southampton.
All right. Second. All right, second by Cindy. Any question, further discussion? All right, all those in
Even do
favor?
it that cheap.
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
for it. Aye.
All right. And the first motion was, sorry, it was 44 altogether,
44.
correct? 44. Thank you.
Do we get a credit for the current year's license fee? Let's go.
We'll keep on moving. Okay. So, ARPA compliance. So there's just one thing. I just wanted to bring it to people's attention so we can probably, oh dear, now I just lost it. Shoot, hold on.
You mean ADA compliance?
No, this was the
People doing their
issue
quarterly
about
reports.
Okay.
the extra funds for the school. We had originally, when we had approved the school funds, we had gotten them through last school year. That was the intent, was to go through the school year, and we've discovered that a couple of teachers have been paid into this current semester, this current 2-3 months, this fall semester. And I could pull that up if I had it in my hand, which I did a minute ago. They are still within the total amount allocated for the 4 projects at the school, because they didn't end up using all that they probably were going to do for teacher training meetings, or staff development, I guess it was. Why can't I come up with this? God darn it. So I think we still have about $15,000 available out of that money as well, that would be added to the pot. But my question was, I think at this point in time, we've got monies that were spent on teacher salaries for the special ed, mostly the paraprofessionals actually, for the August to November timeframe. Recommendation on my part would be to let's revise our decision-making, allow that to be used, spent as it has been, rather than having to reverse that set of entries with both the school, with Bradley. You know, they're still positive. We've still got $15,000 in the,
Yes, can I make that
in
motion?
that amount. I can explain this better in a second if I can. Oh, I just had it. Hold on. Darn it, it's right there.
That was the initial rollout professional
Yeah, so
development
here we
guide.
go. I'm sorry. So the total rollouts, we had 3 different tranches each for the behavior analysts, special ed, and the paraprofessionals, and then 1 flat sum for school professional development. So altogether, we had awarded of those 4 projects, and they were amended a couple of times for the next school year. We awarded $331,514.60 to all of that. Based on my calculations, and I will triple check it again with Bradley, but there was $315,688.33 spent. So a couple of them had some overages this past semester, but when you add it all up, there's still $15,826.27 to the good. So they're still within the full amount that we actually allocated to them. So rather than going back and reversing a bunch of entries for teacher salaries for this past quarter, my recommendation would be that we just amend our decision to say, okay, we're fine with it going through November of 2024, or whenever that, I don't know if the next pay period is December. We got one more pay period, payroll. I mean, we could make it just through December if you wanted to, and just say, okay, whatever is, but then ARPA for Norris School stops as of the end of December, and they're on their own to cover these positions. Does that make sense? And rather than having to go back and have everybody reverse all these entries. So my motion would be to amend our decision-making on this to allow for the school expenditure for the ones that they've already incurred, especially for the paraeducators through the special ed paraeducational people through December of 2024.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Any further clarity? Okay.
Glad you made the motion.
All right. All right. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right. We'll just do that. I think that's the easiest way to go. Thank you. Thank you. Classification plans. So Scott, I think we're back up to you again. Maybe?
So we are slowly but steadily wrapping up everything in the compensation plan. This started about 4 or 5 months ago. We were able to identify about 15 comparable communities based on industry standards that we were able to get some pretty decent statistics and responses from to see where the current schedules of ranges are, but also the actual salaries for each position. We were able to take that data and organize it into a pay chart that better reflects the market. The other thing that we were able to do is myself and 2 independent people were able to review the different positions using a scoring method, a point factor system that took into account education and knowledge, experience, accountability, judgment, complexity, supervision required, contacts, confidentiality, supervision responsibility, and complexity of operations. The end result was, we agreed on most things. We were in the ballpark with each other for the remainder, and then there was a few different areas that we were completely at odds with. So reviewing them, I was able to kind of take the data, go through it a little bit more, and come up with a classification chart for exempt and non-exempt employees. Tonight, I'm just asking the select board to approve the first thing, which is the classification of our exempt and non-exempt employees. Exempt is our salaried or department heads, non-exempt would be our hourly employees. This is just based on the position and not the person or the incumbent in it. This was, it was done through the point factor system, and each position was assigned a grade. There are a few qualifying things I just want to point out. So the exempt classification chart does take into account contractual employees and elected officials, although it is more suggested than a actual requirement. So for the elected officials, they do need to go before town meeting, and the town meeting would have to approve their salaries. And that would not take in effect this year. And it also wouldn't impact the current salaries of TA, police chief, or fire chief, but we are negotiating with highway superintendent and town accountant, and this would provide a range to negotiate their contracts with them. One of the things that we look at when you look at the schedule is we do need to do some additional policies and procedures surrounding it, But the idea is to move everyone to what we consider right around market, which would be on a step 7. And the select board was thinking about 90% market, so that's our target for everything. We do have $20,000, which we put aside to implement this. We were looking at the first pay period of January to start this, and this initial round would just be just to get people into the wage scale. There would be a little bit of additional money where we would then be able to discuss what step that they would be at. One thing I want to point out is that this does have a merit-based part of it, which we'll have to do some policies and procedures around. But the idea is to get a competent person with the market-based experience up to at least step 7 or market. So if we have someone out of college, maybe not a lot of experience, brand new, they would generally start at, a step 1. If we have someone that's competent, 5 to 10 years experience, they would probably start closer to the mid-range. We do need to implement a performance system, or at least revive it. And anyone that is performing really well, or maybe they have 20, 30 years experience, or they're doing really great at the job, they get new certifications, they'd be able to go past the merit-based into step 8 through 13. Although steps would not be guaranteed like they would be in the lower ones. So this does require a little bit of a change in our processes for this. One thing is we have to look at changing our philosophies around pay. Our previous structure was not the worst, but it wasn't maintained. The other issue was it had 18 steps, so it would take forever for someone to reach what would be considered market, and it also combined both exempt and non-exempt. This is something that year after year we're going to have to look at. This year in January, I'm going to ask the select board to kind of look at market data and decide where the chart should move for cost of living adjustments for the upcoming July 1st or FY26. And then we'd have to kind of maintain it every year. So it's just like a car. If you don't do your regular oil changes, it starts to break. So the idea behind it is also to award merit, but that's a little bit further down the road. So right now we're just trying to get a basis for everything. Over the next 6 months, I'm also going to be looking at all the different job descriptions and redoing them. So this is going to be very fluid. Nothing is set in stone right now. It is going to be a lot of work, but this could hypothetically change. So depending on how the job descriptions are, we are going to have to rescore everything and then double check everything. So right around July, August. For the non-exempt, this is what it would be for the non-exempt. It covers pretty much all of our hourly employees except for one stipend employee, which is our animal
VA veterans.
Inspector. So the veterans is currently stipend, and we're going to be converting that into an hourly employee. And then we do have some library employees that are like on call that we would have to address later at a later date. But this is all of our core hourly employees here. And then this is the new pay schedule for that. And it comprises 10 steps. And the idea is to get to step 10 would be market, and every year you progress a step, as well as adjusting it for COLA.
So if I understood correctly, on the schedule, so say you're at a step 3 right now, but you're saying that for July next year, we would be adjusting that schedule so that whatever the step 3 was at $25.30 or something, that won't be the same amount for step 3 next year. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So step 10 would be considered market, and all the previous steps are based on a certain percentage. So we would adjust if most towns are giving like a 1.5% increase. So we would adjust step 10 by 1.5% and then redo the previous scales.
So in theory, if you start here year 1 and you've been here 10 years in the same position, you get up to your step 10 and you never move off step 10, but step 10 adjusts the annual cost of living adjustments if so awarded, right?
And you'd like to put this into effect in January. You said the first payroll in January?
January, yes. Yeah, we have some additional money it's going to cost right around $15,000 to do the initial adjustment, and then we should have some additional money to kind of look at where people should be placed in the steps part. So the first part is just defining the positions, and then the second part is looking at the people in the positions.
So you're looking for us to approve the classification charts and the pay scales tonight, that's it? Okay. On a generic level, sort of?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to come back in a future meeting with the actual adjustments for each position that I'll have a big spreadsheet for you.
Got it. Okay.
So this is not by any means the first time that we've seen this or had an opportunity to dialogue with you about it. So I want to make sure that the public understands that this has been, as Scott introduced, developed by him and independent reviewers and department heads over a period of months, and the select board has been along for the ride. With that said, I'd like to commend our new town administrator for doing all this work. It is his forte, but it is beyond what you'd normally tackle in the first year of your tenure. I, for one, greatly appreciate it, and I'd be pleased to make a motion to approve the exempt and non-exempt classification charts and the corresponding wage scales. As we discussed in executive session just prior to this public session.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion by Stephen and a second by Cindy. Okay. Any further comment, discussion, question? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Believe that passes. That gives you a green light.
Madam Chair?
Go for it a little bit. Yes, sir.
So just taking everything into consideration tonight, and it just dawned on me listening to the TA speak, we believe we've got $93,000 in ARPA funds. We've just voted to commit $61,500. I suggest that instead of going to the $15,000 line item in the budget that we have set aside, that we take the first $15,000 from ARPA and spend that. And then that way, if it happens to take longer for us to do the true ups and adjustments, that line item is still sitting there for us to use. And should we not use it by June 30th, it will by default fall out to free cash as a suggestion.
Okay. So the amount you needed was around 15 or 16, was that right?
Yeah, right around 15.
If
15.
with the understand, we only have 2 weeks left to commit ARPA funds.
Right, yeah. But you've got a sense of where these would be. But,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's an interesting idea, because then that would be sure that we could actually do this and still save some money aside if we needed to for.
I thought these were salaries next year, starting in January, right?
Right.
So you can use the ARPA funds.
It has to be expended by December of '26.
26. Okay.
Yeah.
Committed by December of '24.
By this December. Yeah, we've
Got
got
it.
2 years to spend them. So that would be fine. Yeah, that's.
Are there other requests waiting in the wings? You don't have to get into it, but if you've
I'm aware
identified,
of. I don't know if there's any other ARPA requests.
well, I would second that motion
Yeah.
when you talk.
All right. All right, so I think.
Would you like the motion now or under any other new business?
No, let's go ahead and do it now, sure.
Then I make a motion that up to $15,000 needed to right this injustice that we've been fighting for so long, first come from ARPA funds.
Second.
All right, and I would just say that, Scott, I'll ask you to fill out an application form.
So direct the TA to do so.
Okay, for salary adjustments first, and then should we need more, it comes out of the money that we put aside in the budget anyway, right?
Yeah, and feel free to add, FICA numbers in there too to help offset the budget, but.
Yeah. Okay, up to $15,000. Do I hear any approvals here? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, let's do that. That's a good idea. Thank you.
I have one every now and then.
Stretches our money a little bit. Thanks very much. That's a good idea. I think that's fair. Okay, sewer update. I think we've heard what we heard originally. I don't know if you had any more to say about that, Scott. I think we're.
Well, I'd just like to put a fine point on it. The next step is to take the feasibility study to not only the public, because we do want to make sure that the public is seeing the benefit and wants to move forward with exploring this, but to secure funding to do the design so that we can actually narrow in on the specific cost and simultaneously address legal issues. But we've taken the first step on time, under budget, and let's take the second step.
And just to say the information, if it isn't already, it will be posted up on the town website. We've got a new page for special projects. So basically, the land use planning, the sewer study, and the 250th anniversary are all going to be under special projects page on the town website. So that's getting readied, and we'll get that done within the next couple of days to get that all posted up there. So keep looking up there for information, okay? All right. Springfield Materials Recycling Facility Extension. Mouthful, this is a new one. So this
Motion
is-
to receive and refer to Highway Superintendent.
Yeah, so this is a 5-year extension to the, or no,
Yeah.
5-year extension, processing fee 2.5% annually per ton. Okay,
So the material recycling facility is where our
transfer station.
trash is transferred to. Every category, all the recyclables and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And what percentage increase in cost does this?
It is, I believe it's a 2.5% increase for the next 5 years, and then a 1% annual processing fee adjustment based on the prior year.
It's remarkable. Move approval.
Second.
All right, questions, thoughts? Cindy?
Discussion. And Stephen asked, is this all recyclables? So I know that this whole concept of recycling is really complex as to what should be recycled. What color is it? What quality is it? Does it have a certain kind of symbol on it? Let me tell you, I'm no expert on this, and yet I really am wholly in favor of protecting our environment. I guess we can't, dispute that this has to happen. We have to send things places, but I do know that some communities are getting a little proactive about ways to cut down on what you buy, where you put it, how frequently do you use it, do you have to keep throwing away things even if they're not meant to be single use? I'm bringing this up because we really have to, this is another phase in this, but we really have to be thinking about this. And I also wonder, and I don't know the answer, as to whether things are put in the recycle bin that have to be separated out and should be someplace else, like maybe even in the ground, because they're, compostable kinds of things. I don't know the answer. I guess we have no choice. I know that this motion is just to pay the bill, but I'm just letting every member of the public know that it's something we have to get a little more sensitive about in the town of Southampton. I see a nodding head over there. Thank you very much. I hope we're all nodding our heads on this one, but, okay. Anyway, that's my
I completely
discussion.
agree with you.
Yeah.
I would say that, having been exposed to half a dozen communities in my adult lifespan, Southampton, with short staff, is doing
Pretty good.
a solid job. Solid.
Managing solid waste.
Certainly
Yes.
a creative and dedicated
Yeah.
effort to both educate the public and to have the best outcome with our waste.
Yeah.
I think we've
Yeah.
received awards
Yeah.
for diverting.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think we've done a lot, especially with textile, most recently,
Right.
keeping textiles out of the landfill.
We need more.
And out of the, that, but I think, just for, I'm thinking the public realizes this, but things are labeled very, very well. In fact, there's been increased labeling on every section of where things are supposed to be put at the current transfer station. And in this contract, we do get penalties if things are mixed in incorrectly. So if we have a contamination fee charged to us because something was put in incorrectly, that comes back at us. So please follow the directions of the transfer station attendants in terms of where things go, and if you don't know, ask first.
Can it be-
So that we can avoid those kinds of problems too.
Can it be elevated on the town website?
Sure.
I think that would go directly to the kind of thing that Cindy's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yep. Sure. Okay, I think we have a motion and a second. Could we vote, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Did I hear Cindy?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm sorry,
I said
thank you.
aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion passes, thank you. Federal grants policy, Scott, I'm going to turn that one over to you.
Yeah, so this would probably just be a first reading because it's rather lengthy, but
Yeah.
this is part of, in our FY22 audit, we were suggested to adopt a federal grants policy, and I assume that's going to be a suggestion for our FY23 audit as well in '24, once we get to that point. So this policy was actually stolen from another auditing firm that does municipal audits. And basically, it's not a lot of fun reading a policy that has a table of contents, let's just put it that way. But it is pretty comprehensive in how we handle the federal money that we receive, how we process everything, what's allowable, how we follow the procedures from the federal government. The town accountant has to confirm that we actually have the account coming in, the money coming in, and what the audit requirements are. And it also does reinforce our procurement policies, which we also have to look at on a townwide basis too, so not just for federal audits. So I think this is just an introduction, and if you have any time for reading over winter break.
So what I'd be curious at, I'm all for first reading, let's not take this up until the middle of January. But between now and then, I'd like to know how if we adopt this, how the end users, what their feedback is. Is the town accountant going to say, well, page 73, section 4, paragraph 2 doesn't work, and here's why? Then let's be mindful of that. But I think if we give 30 days for the stakeholders to say, could you actually implement this? If we rolled this out, what are the barriers? And then we could maybe tweak based on that.
Good idea, okay.
Yeah, and I think it is important for us to affirmatively commit to what is law and regulation, but if beyond that, it's also good practice, subject to implementation concerns,
Yeah.
it's great to have policy.
Okay, so we'll just treat this as a first time around, take some time to read it, and then we'll pick it back up probably in January.
Right.
But what you're suggesting
And
is...
just ask for feedback from
So
those
like
that would
the
have to
accountant
implement
And
it.
treasurer's office and whoever has to implement this, how, anything that they see as a problem from their point of view. That would be good to know. Okay, good, all right. Holiday closing policy, this is coming back
Motion to
around.
approve the second reading of the holiday closing policy as amended previously.
Okay, any discussion? This will go up, I believe it has to still be posted for 10 days on our bulletin board before it goes into effect. But this was to talk about half-days on Christmas and New Year's, and the day before Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving, I believe. Did we have Thanksgiving in here?
Yep.
Yep. The additions were just for the concerns of Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So I did put a little chart in,
I see, okay.
kind of clarify it.
Okay, so we'll just
No, I like the visual. It works well.
tidy this, just put this up, and it'll be posted on Lucy's bulletin board for 10 days, and then we can put it into effect. So we have a motion, I think we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. That'll save us from doing this every year. 250th anniversary, just briefly, we're going to move forward on a meeting again on Monday evening, but we'll be slowly getting some information out right after that meeting in terms of our events. We've got a big thing happening, I think, on New Year's Day, right at noontime. We're looking at, I will announce it because it is going to, it's out there already. We've got a couple of volunteers that would like to ring the church bells here 250 times. And
At midnight?
at noon.
Oh.
So in between the Rose Parade and the football game, and, after you've had, a little bit of, coffee after the, New Year's Eve party, et cetera. But, and I have been told, and believe me, these are two people that have done this. They say it's not a problem. And they're telling me it's going to take only 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I was like, okie dokie, so.
I think noon is a wise idea. I think 15 minutes at midnight would send the
Better than
town into
listening to the
panic.
firing range.
So the idea is that we would just kick off the year and kick off the 250th with ringing of the bells, and then we're planning on probably some soup and artisan bread or something at the church. So, the ringing of the bells would come on in and have a bowl of soup and a piece of bread, and that's kind of starting the whole year off. And then
Hear you.
we've got a couple more things that'll be coming up, and I'll put those out a little bit later. But, so that's the idea. We just want to, have a fun thing the community can get around and come enjoy and, get to know your neighbors a little bit. I mean, I think a lot of us all kind of stay in our own little circles sometimes, and we don't know, who lives on the next street. So I think the other night at the tree lighting, that was an occasion to kind of start that process. So any other business that can't wait until the next December 23rd meeting? And reminder, we'll do a Zoom meeting on the 23rd, same time. Any other business that can't wait until then? All right. Then we have a whole bunch of licenses and permits here. These are.
If there's no objection, you want to take them up as 2 packets?
Yeah, let's take the alcohol license renewals first. And looking at all the paperwork, everything has been submitted, all the paperwork's here, payments have been made. I think Judy's gone through and verified all of these things, so we're good to go with this. So yes.
Make a motion to approve alcohol and other annual license renewals for the following: Camp John Alcohol, Common Vicular, Entertainment, Co-op Devices; Paisano's Restaurant and Pub, Alcohol, Common Vicular, Entertainment, Co-op Devices; Southampton Country Club, Alcohol, Common Vicular, Entertainment, Co-op Devices; Tin Can Alley Lounge, Alcohol, Common Vicular, Entertainment, Co-op Devices, Bowling Alley; Westlake Gourmet, Alcohol and Common Vicular, I'll get that right by the end. Pure Foods Market, Alcohol, Common Vicular; Glendale Ridge Vineyard, Alcohol, Common Vicular and Entertainment; Country Liquor, Alcohol only; Smitty's Package Store, Alcohol only; Southampton Beer and Wine, Alcohol only.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Stephen. Okay. Any questions, comments? All right. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion to approve the Common Vicular license renewals for the following individuals: Anytime Nutrition, Bashista's Orchards, Big Y, Cumberland Farms, Dunkin' Donuts, Sheldon's Ice Cream.
Second.
Okay, second by Stephen. No questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you.
One question,
Yes, sir.
to the TA's knowledge: anybody that had a license currently not renew? Or is this everybody?
I believe that's everybody.
Everybody? Okay.
One would have gone out of business. Mikkel.
And we're still waiting on the legislature for the additional all alcohol license.
Yep.
No news on that.
Subway?
Yep. Okay, good. All right. Next, we have up
Yeah.
one personnel change form.
What's the definition of a, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead,
Vicular
Yeah.
license renewal? Isn't that where you can obtain food and consume it on property?
You have to be able to sit down. I think it needs a seating requirement, does it not?
Like a minimum number of seats?
I have to look into that one.
What's jumping out at me is Subway is not here, and there's 3 tables inside Subway.
Good point. Question?
And it's only because this esteemed gentleman to my left just pointed it out to me. He was too afraid to speak up.
Yeah, I think it has to be a place where you can sit down and eat. And
Yeah, but
I don't
they've
know
got that-
If it's a minimum number, though. But,
Okay.
yeah, we can certainly double check. Maybe not everybody has put in their things on time, so we might have a couple of these on the 23rd as well.
Okay.
Okay, good to know. We can double check. And-
mo-
Yeah, just to say that, maybe Judy could just do a quick double check on anybody that we
We don't wanna
awarded
lose
last
that
year.
revenue.
If, somebody didn't renew, then, or didn't get in touch with her, just raise a red flag there. But, yeah, okay, very good about that.
For PCF, motion to approve Emily Muska, Library, change of hours increased up to less than 20 hours a week.
Second.
All right, and so this is what the rationale here is to increase the hours, reflects the increase in circulation and the retirement of substitutes. Okay, so this is one person who's picking up extra time due to the fewer substitute staff that's on board. Okay. And the salary, the salary is the same, $18.21 per hour?
Correct.
Okay. And up to 20 hours, or is it?
Right. Less than 20 to keep it non-benefited.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Less than 20, okay. All right, I think I heard the motion correctly. Do we have a second? Sorry.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, okay. Who seconded, sorry?
Stephen?
Stephen, okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and this will take effect January 1st, apparently, the way I'm reading this, okay? All right, let's see, any old business? Stephen, any updates on things Stormwater Enterprise Fund or the Broadband Committee. I'll just take them a couple at a time if there's anything.
Nothing on Stormwater and Enterprise Fund yet. I know we're still waiting for Ty and Bond to schedule a kickoff meeting for that. Dan and I were going to be meeting probably Friday to talk about next steps in broadband.
Okay.
Manhattan Meadow Bridge, I do need a request from the state to see if they will provide us at least a temporary extension of our grant. If not, it expires December 31st. But we do have the plans for the bridge itself done. We're waiting for it to get stamped by the Massachusetts architect. And then hopefully we can get it at least ordered, and if the state can give us a little bit of a leeway. It does mean that we have to look for other funding sources for the
Installation, or for the abutments on it.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But it'll at least be a step in the right direction. Capital asset planning, we have a few volunteers. I'm trying to coordinate with the chiefs to do the public safety, which I think Reggie was going to do public safety, and then we have one other
Yeah, Bob
volunteer.
Riggs. Yeah, Bob Riggs is going to do highway maybe? I don't know if you've been in touch with him.
I think so, yeah. And then we still need a volunteer for town hall, but the idea is just to actually take the lists that we have, go through it, and actually match everything up and see if there's anything that is missing or not missing. Additionally, I met with Maya last week, our insurance provider. A lot of the lists that we have for insurance, we are fully insured for everything, but a lot of the lists that they have are not up to date because of a software transfer. So for example, like Randall's truck, even though we have that insured, it's not showing up in the list yet, and that's because it won't be until January where they send out a new list. So we were using that to kind of look at everything and wondering why things were missing.
Right. Okay.
So we are working on that. And then the IT, I met with Art again today, but we are looking to do a IT capital planning for a lot of our software and other things. So it may not fit technically the definition of capital, but I think we need to start looking at that.
Okay.
Judy did sell some additional equipment.
She's having fun at the front desk, isn't she?
It's fun.
We just make her a 40-hour employee. We'd set all these budgets.
How much money did she make this time?
If it's not nailed down, she's selling it. So be careful.
The important thing is she's not recycling it.
This would get fined.
So if you do look in the basement, there's actually quite a little bit of space down there.
Oh, wow.
It'll get filled up.
So we are slowly but surely moving things, and we hopefully someday it can actually be some kind of a usable space, not just for storage. But yeah, it was,
Good.
we're gonna
Yeah, there was
keep
at
moving
least,
on that.
what, $9,000 at least total last time, I think last I heard.
Last week she sold, I think it was about $4,500
Oh, wow.
for
My
the old
gosh.
dump truck.
So, wow, so we're maybe into double digits now. Very good.
FY23 status for closing up, we just got an email today just on a few different items that are outstanding. Town accountant needs to finish those up, and then we'll be on to 24. Green energy, we did have one light out in the COA, so I'm testing their customer service part of it, and they seem to be pretty responsive for that. For Norris School, I'm still waiting just to see when they're going to be able to schedule it, and hopefully it'll still be when the school's out.
In vacation time, yeah.
And then nothing on East Street.
Nothing there. Okay, very good. All right, so we do have just for our calendar, Zoom meeting on the 23rd of December, and then our regular scheduled meetings will be in the new year, January 7th and January 21. So that's all we have for information and business tonight, as far as I know. So I will take a motion to adjourn. All right.
All fair, aye?
Aye. Stephen, all right, aye. Hello. You guys are in a hurry. We're adjourned at 8:20 tonight. Thank you very much.